Hi guys, I'm Dana Al-Hanbali and this is Something to Consider. Do you ever wonder what it takes to build a product? How do you move from an idea to a scalable business in a world that's evolving faster than ever? Our guest today has some incredible insights on the matter. She's a powerhouse in product strategy and business innovation, with over 15 years of expertise in transforming MVPs into scalable, successful businesses. From building not one, but 3 startups and scaling them to successful exits, to hosting the #1 Arabic entrepreneurship podcast, Unicorn Bil Arabi. She's been instrumental in shaping the MENA region's tech and creative landscape. While her accolades speak for themselves, what I've always admired most about her is her willingness to share, connect, and support her community. It's clear that she's driven by a desire to create a legacy of impact, growth, and representation for the region. Lama Masri Osman, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
You are right. It does make you feel warm and fuzzy,
I'm
like
so
that
glad.
intro. Like, oh, that's nice.
I usually really like when the guest hears the intro versus me, recording it after we're done.
Yeah.
Because one, you should feel good about yourself. I mean, this is your story. But I feel like it also sets the tone for the conversation that we're going to have.
For sure. No, definitely. Warm and fuzzy.
Warm and fuzzy. Lama, what can you share with us about the context of your life to just set the stage for this conversation a little bit more and give our audience an idea of who you are?
All right. I always start with, especially when people want to ask me, so who's Lama? And I tell them, all right, I have one really good superpower. And I'm very adamant on that. I'm a builder. Ooh. So I absolutely love taking something from 0 to T2, T3. And I add like a flair to it. I'm an idea matchmaker.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you give me an idea or somebody comes with a problem. I'm like, you know what? I have the perfect person for you. And I connect them with that person. And then, you're, wanting to hire. You know what? I've worked alongside this person. I couldn't only recommend him, but I also know that, he has a legacy behind him. So definitely work with him. So I just genuinely enjoy connecting people. And I think it's kind of driven by, I don't know, I think we wanna believe that the world is a good place, and people want to see other people shine.
Yeah.
I truly enjoy that. I don't really believe in competition. I think there's room enough for everyone and you can learn so much from others. So
I like that, and I see that in you. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur, though? Although I know you have had entrepreneurial ventures, or do you enjoy kind of being the backbone, the support, the behind the scenes?
I think it goes on where I am in my psyche. Innate me, like go down to my core. I'm definitely someone who has ideas and would love to build on her own, definitely. But that takes a lot of mental strength. You need to be in the right place. You need to have the right funding and security for you to be able to lean on the adventurous spirit, right? And because it is draining and it takes a toll on everything around you. So I think depending on what happened in my life, so I was an entrepreneur when the blast happened in Lebanon, and then obviously that emotional toll in 2020, I had to lean on somebody else, right? On another company where I could build for them. I think my biggest problem is that I have so much accountability. I do not know how not to be a co-founder, that mindset. So it's a great thing for the company, but it's also maybe a bad thing if I don't have equity in that company, because I end up giving so much, my network, my time, my passion even. And so a lot of people mistake, like, you're not a founder? It's like, no, I'm not. So I think that's, it's a good thing, but it's also, I guess it's a bad thing, but it goes down to my true nature, really. Yeah.
So really, it goes back to the timing or the context of what's going on in your life.
Very
and that
true.
kind of determines how comfortable you are in either role.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Just out of curiosity, when you aren't the quote unquote founder or co-founder, but you are the person that is supporting them in their journey to growth, is there anything, like, what does that feel like? Just from a perspective of being an entrepreneur and being someone who is used to being, at the steering wheel, truly, how does that feel?
I think depends on the product that you're building. I think it's really important that you believe in the product. Look, it feels good. It's not like I have to, I think titles are not, they don't define you, right? And I think a lot of people say, I'm a co-founder, I'm a CEO, I'm this. the nice thing is that from an early on, and with all these shakes in my career, is that I knew that I was a brand. So I was like, I'm Lama Masri, you know what I mean? I'm on my own brand. I know that when people work with me, they know that they're gonna get X, right? And it's no longer, please work with me. It's more like, no, I want to work with Lama. You know, I know that she's not gonna, let me down. You know, I give her a task, I know it's gonna be handled. It's okay if I look away. I know things are gonna go the way I would like, as if I was there in the room. So it's that kind of, it feels, I think, it's nice to know that somebody is relying on you, and they trust you in that way. But it's also hard to, let's say, build if the people don't know you. And so how do you build that trust and know that you're accountable as well without stepping on their toes, right? Without saying that you're taking also on the spotlight of their leadership roles. And so that is also sometimes like, I love to lift people around me, and I'm never in a desire to step on their toes. You have to be very conscious about like how much you build and grow, but also the best way for you to shine is to make them shine as well.
100%.
So that's just a shift in your mindset when you are as a co-founder to when you're, building and lifting somebody else's baby. How do you make them shine?
And I ask that because I think it's a very humbling process as an entrepreneur to transition to that stage where you are supporting others. And I feel like even the way that I evolve, it's something that I see myself consciously, I'm aware of it, and it's strange because I'm used to leading and I know what to do, but also I have a different role to play here. And I feel like when I'm seeing how the entrepreneurial scene is kind of evolving in the region, I'm seeing so much more. There's a lot of encouragement in collaboration versus the solopreneurs that had to do it on their own maybe a couple of years ago. I see it in what investors look for, and I see it in the creativity behind the businesses that are coming out. So really that's what it was stemming from. What do you think makes a good entrepreneur? Especially in Dubai, just to make it more specific, because this is a very, very competitive market. It's, I think, a market that attracts a lot of entrepreneurs. What do you think it takes to really make it?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm really trying to think about all the angles. I think a good, soft landing to rely on also. So a lot of people don't think about this, but for you to even, get up and say, okay, I have this idea, you need to make sure that there is some kind of cash on the side, for you to be able to venture, because you're not going to start monetizing for at least maybe 6 to 7 months, while you're building the product. So give yourself that time, maybe rely on that current stable job before you immediately say, all right, I'm out. So making sure that the entire product is live, that MVP is live, and because it takes around 5 months to actually, before even registration and everything. So I think one thing is, don't just quit your job, obviously. I think everybody would know this, right? I know they're eager, they want to start, but go on stealth mode. A lot of founders in Dubai have been going on stealth mode a lot. And they don't just share what they've been building, and they just build. They get a few co-founders that they work really well with, and they bootstrap. And I would recommend that angle. But here also in Dubai is making sure you have the right, let's say, investors as well, people that believe you, but not every, let's say, LP or every VC or every angel, just because they have a checkbook, would be ideal for you. Just make sure that they match. Not just your business line, but also understand who maybe your target clients would be, so that they can be that door opener as well. So take advantage of the right network of investors, because you just don't want just another ticket.
It's interesting because I feel like your answer centers around this idea of to be a great entrepreneur or to make it, it's having a support system in place versus just relying on a great idea, which is a different perspective to a lot of the things that I've heard.
Yeah, because I would tell you, you will be, sometimes bad ideas make $1 million.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's really about that nest that you have. You're comfortable, you're in a good mindset. Because I'll tell you, some of the best entrepreneurs, have started from garages, right? They've bootstrapped, but they were able. It wasn't their garage. Maybe it was their parents' garage, right? It was something small, but they were able to do it because there was a way for you kind of to support the entrepreneur. Here you don't have a grid economy, right? You have that. You are in the UAE, whether if you're a local, obviously, or if you're not, you need a visa.
Yeah.
Right. So that is not cheap. So for you to start off, you need to make sure that you have enough for rent, all of that. So just be mindful about when you want to start. Have enough cash on the side so that you can start building. Or if you're lucky enough to have a partner, and I see that a lot in entrepreneurs. One partner is a full-time employee and another partner is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so, that makes, I think, couples, build in this country. And I see that a lot, and I truly enjoy that. I don't think I've seen it really much globally. Because here, there's this kind of lifting each other mindset, which is nice.
You're talking as an actual married couple?
As an actual married couple.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I actually had an entrepreneurial couple on here, and that was very much their story. How is building a tech startup in MENA different from other markets in the world? I mean, I'm sure there are unique things, especially in, I hate this term, but being in a market that isn't as saturated. I don't want to call it a developing market, but a market that isn't necessarily as saturated as maybe Western markets. What are the core differences?
I think whenever let's say, product or pitch deck is ready, usually the cycle is that you go to the US, it starts in the US, and you get US funding. If it doesn't work there, you jump off to Europe, right? You pitch, you go to your VCs, and then that cycle, if it doesn't go there, it goes to Asia, it goes to Singapore, it goes to Hong Kong. If it doesn't win there, then it comes to the Middle East. So usually the cycle of that pitch deck goes there. So that's been the essence of fundraising for a lot of the investors, depending on because your business can be from here, but let's say your target market is probably not here. Maybe your target market is emerging markets around the globe, or you start off US market. It just really depends on your offering. I think a lot of setting up has been, companies replicating ideas that have been successful in the West and kind of localizing them here. But I think there's a twist because our market is so diverse and our pricing models are so diverse, because you're not only just setting up in the UAE, you're offering, because of our shared language, 450 million people speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And so you have a diverse landscape of, let's say, distribution depending on the product that you're serving. So your pricing model in the UAE and Saudi Arabia is different than your pricing model in the Levant. In Egypt with their pricing devaluation, with Lebanon the same thing. So I think it's much harder for startups to monetize properly in the region because of this diverse landscape of each different country and the population size. I think in Europe, it kind of shares the same kind of level of pricing models, where you can price similarly in the UK, similar to German, similar to France. You wouldn't have to do such a price jump, whereas you'd have to do that here in the region. So I think it's much more challenging for an idea to come out from the Middle East to gain that proper success, but just having the right mentors or partners to guide you on how to monetize in different market shares. Like one example, I'll give you Mondia Group. So
Which group?
Mondia Group.
Okay.
So Mondia Group, when I was with Podio, we signed with them also. I'm now a strategic advisor for Manassati. We've done for them where they take your product and they put it on basically the offering for telcos. So then now, instead of, let's say, paying directly through the App Store, but you can subscribe through the telco operators. So let's say you have Du or Etisalat, monthly you pay for Disney Plus, for Stars Play, for OSN, you would add Manassati and Podio to it. you know? So that would be part of your monthly subscription models.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how you tap into markets, let's say, that without having to open a bank account there, let's say, without having to, because a lot of the money that is in those markets, usually you cannot get them out of those markets.
So would you suggest, I mean, I want to talk about this in a little more detail because I know that you actually have an MVP scaling process, a 7-step process, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But in this circumstance, which relates a lot, by the way, I've heard this multiple times, would you recommend that businesses, when they are looking at scaling, that they focus on specific sub-areas within the region? So for example, GCC first. Let's build our network and our product there before we start expanding into territories like the Levant or North Africa.
I mean, right now, the value of the consumer, right? His purchasing power is much higher in the GCC. It's a fact. So depending on the service offering, right? If you're doing a freemium model and it's not per download purchase, right? Then go ahead and distribute. If you're, let's say, doing more of an ad tech serve, right? But the cost per impression for the Levant is going to be one value, and then the cost per impression for the GCC is going to be another value. So there's definitely more focus, I think, for higher revenue is for the GCC. So definitely do not spread your hands too thin, and scale as you can, but also like make sure that you understand the different local markets and understand also their banking processes and understand the legal processes. A lot of times you cannot conduct businesses unless you've properly set up there. So, same thing with Morocco, right? In Morocco, when you're doing business there as well, the money stays in the country. So you have to reinvest that maybe into a team in Morocco. Same thing for Egypt, So a lot of that money that you end up making then ends up staying in that. So you need to repurpose it internally.
Are all these issues things that the, like for example, the subscription-based businesses globally face, like the Netflixes and the Disney Plus and the Masterclass or 100%. PayPal or, no, I'm sorry, not PayPal, but any sort of subscription-based business?
100%.
Really? They all face this?
They all face this.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Something to think about. So talk to us about your 7-step MVP process. I know this is something that it's been a cornerstone in a lot of the discussions you have on panels and something that you've been giving workshops on. Can you give us kind of an overview of what that is and maybe start off with who exactly this would be for?
I think it would be, let's say, for the entrepreneurs in the region. I mean, again, they have a great idea. They're ready to scale. It could be anybody, whether it's in tech or a product or, they're manufacturing. So service line or even production line.
So it's not limited to digital products?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. Because even if it's, from a digital perspective, if you are launching, I think we'll start up with legal. That's how the flow that I did it with, is that before you even register your idea, make sure that you understand that to produce that product is going to, digitally, right? The application is going to take, let's say, around, 5 months of development, But another way to do it, I think with the power of AI now, I think entrepreneurs are very lucky that they're now in the region. And it's much easier to scale and to launch because that product development, I mean, you can use a company called like Stacks, Stacks.ai, that basically within not even an hour, like they say, within 15 minutes, you can put your entire application online.
Wow.
So for a fraction of like Builder.ai, Builder.ai, more than $100,000 for minimum for 2 apps. It's very heavy as an investment. So there are so many ways now for you to utilize different partners to launch and scale. Build before you register. So that would be my first, advice.
Okay. In the 7 steps.
In the 7 steps.
Okay.
Because you will end up paying for legal fees and registration fees that are quite hefty. That you're not ready to monetize, you're not ready to register for taxations and all of that before you actually have the product.
Yeah.
So be ready with that and then start registering. And don't be scared that, let's say, the name of the company is gone, because legally the name does not have to be the same name as the app.
Yeah.
So really the first thing, register your website, buy the domain name, all of that. And then, register the company. So beyond legal, and then that's something I also just touched into, which is the funding. So I went with everybody, like kind of explaining, the stages. Seed investment is really when you're proving the MVP. That's you want to make sure that my product works and there is attention for it, right? Your Series A is when you're starting making revenue, right? And you're starting, let's say, to scale regionally. Your Series B is literally you're scaling globally, right? Your Series C is preparing for a full-on IPO. So it's really these type of different stages and how much investment, and seed is usually around 10 to 20%, you're actually giving to equity for the VCs that's, joining you. So it's understanding, I think, financially how much you need when you're building these products to kind of scale yourself, but also understanding what evaluation means. And my biggest recommendation is study and learn and ask different entrepreneurs what's their cap table like, understanding how much investment it needs to build a product, and be aware of certain talents, how much they are. So all of that just to kind of give you a proper overview of how you're going to be like that product, the value of it is. So that's from a funding perspective. Another one is the kind of the future of hiring, right? The future of HR. A lot of multinationals no longer have a proper HR department. It's a full-on software, and there's companies like Remote Pass that people are using, where they're not just remoting people hirely and they're managing them, but they're also paying them all these different currencies. You're paying them in crypto if you want at one point, and whatever local currency they are in around the world. And it's no longer this kind of accountability of like micromanagement, 9 to 5. Look, they give you a task, depending again on your business. If you have, let's say, certain times that you need their front-facing, client-facing, I understand that there's certain times that they need to be online. But if it's back-end support, like any tech, you don't need to be micromanaging these teams. Really, I really believe in this equity kind of accountability, trust. I think the mindset of our age group is so different than the mindset of the new young graduates.
Yeah.
It's extremely different, where the 4 a.m., like, we're going to work, we're going to give, we're building.
We're going to hustle.
We're really, and then whereas the other age group, bless them, they are doing their work, but they also understand, I think maybe something that maybe we didn't understand, but it's so innate to us, is that no, let me breathe now.
Yeah.
It's
interesting because I even see in a lot of the policies and employment regulations that are being implemented in the UAE is very much in support of this new way of working, encouraging remote work and working from home. And so it's quite flexible in terms of the way that these systems are being built. And from what I'm hearing from you, it seems to be kind of the way to go for entrepreneurs as well.
Of course.
Do you think that a lot of the way that, I mean, obviously there's a pull there in terms of, it's nice to be able to, that's one of the benefits of working for a startup. But do you find that the compensation is different? So do these people end up getting paid more or less? Do they get equity in the company? What have you seen?
I think a lot of startups, if they want to get great talents, they're going to have to give some sort of equity, right? Some from their ESOP, really, to these great talents to work with them. I think.
What's an appropriate amount? Because I think a lot of people say that, but then when it comes down to the conversation, they don't realize what, they see the number and they judge it based on their zero knowledge of things like valuations and how much should I be asking for, and how much is my role going to be worth in building this product. So are there any best practices you can share?
I think usually it's 10% of your cap table needs to be reserved for ESOP, and you just don't touch that as you grow. And that 10%, and as you hire new, you take, a fraction, and then it becomes usually vested not after 12 months, not after 24 months, sometimes after, 38 months or 36 months, or it just depends on, their commitment and also their value as an employee, like their market value in terms of a salary. So you equate that accordingly to your shares and your valuation, So I think as a founder, just make sure that 10% is untouched. That's for your ESOP. And it's not just like, that's a lot. Like, listen, it's just no longer about that pie, Just have that overall outcome. I'm building a great company and I want the best with me, because you are not the smartest person in the room. And I, as myself, I do not know everything. I definitely have to collaborate with the rest of whoever's building with me, because I want to get people that are smarter than me. It is so important to do that. And don't be intimidated. Be excited that they know something and learn from them. Like, amazing. Can you teach me how you did that? And that way you kind of grow as an entrepreneur, because you end up having that, instead of like competing, right?
100%. I don't want to deny the fact that there's something very intimidating about that, but I think there is a shift happening where there's an appreciation for collaborating with individuals that are going to build a product that is going to be worth something, hopefully wonderful one day. So I do see the value in it, but I think that for a lot of people that are entering the entrepreneurial space, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, because they're not basing it on anything but their own assumptions. Entrepreneurs, when they talk about their businesses, their ideas, they refer to it as, my idea, my baby, my business, my whatever. So how do you welcome people into that space? And from my own experience, what I found, especially when I'm bringing people on board into my business, is that they have to buy into and love and want to grow the business more than just like me, okay? Which is quite different, because I feel like an entrepreneur, an investor would invest in me, the leader, the entrepreneur, the person behind the idea, but the team very much needs to believe in the product and the idea.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think it's very important to believe in the product, because again, the product may pivot at one point and change. And it's also the people that build that product. You want to be also feeling comfortable. You really have the best that is also building. And I think the leader, there is a lot of, I think, fondness, right? And there's some leaders that do really well, and they know how to lift the team around them and they make them shine. And some people are not the best leaders, unfortunately, and they need more guidance. And a lot of team members get demotivated about the product because of leadership. So I think it's a lot of interplays. There needs to be definitely a great leader, but that leader may change at one point. The board may say, you know what, this is not the best person for the job. Maybe they're going through a burnout right now.
Yeah.
Let's bring somebody else in. So does that mean the whole team now gets shifted? No, it means that, listen, you are great for this stage. Bring somebody else for this stage. And that is something I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to do. They get so fixated about titles and fixated about this is their baby. And I really recommend being so wholly honest that this is what I'm great at. Like, I know, like Lama, I know I'm a builder. Bring me in as a CEO. I know that I'll take your idea and I build it to T2, T3. That is my specialty. Beyond that, I haven't tried it. It would be a nice challenge to, scale brands globally around the globe, sure, but it's not my expertise. It would be out of my comfort zone. And I would love to shine in it, but I don't know if I will shine in it. But I know that I'm going to shine in building,
So where do you think most entrepreneurs go wrong when it comes to building their product?
I think they take it too personal. And a lot of, again, it's business. Building a product is a bit of a reflection of you, of how you gear it, but also its situations and the market situations. And are you too early for the market or are you too late for the market? So just don't, if people keep on repeating certain things and advisors, listen to them. And it's not an attack, right? I think that's just it's ego. It's a bit of parking it and trust that you have a great product, and if it's not, pivot.
How do you think entrepreneurs can course correct or overcome something as, I mean, because ego is a part of also your character, your personality. It's something that's it's a bit difficult to let go of, especially if you're still in the learning process, right? So what are some ways to go around it? Do you advise like bringing in mentors? Do you advise bringing in hiring experts? Does this come from the co-founders you bring on board? What are some kind of best practices to think about?
I think having a lifelong mentor is an amazing thing. I've had one since the age of 19. He was just on my podcast, Patrick Smeha. He just launched a book. It makes zero sense. It's really nice. And I've literally, any idea I've had, I've sat with him and he just gave it to me straight. Like, yes, no, this is great. This is what you can do with it. Go, you know? And it's kind of like that cheerleader in the background that like, I believe in you and I know you're going to do great things in your life. And so that also helps shapes you. And you definitely need that, whoever you are, you know, whether you're a builder or wanting to build at on one stage. Then bringing in experts is highly advisable. Any company, basically hire the competitors, you know what I mean? Hire the people that work in a similar company and bring them on board. So that you save time in that sales cycle, right? Because you don't want to be reinventing the wheel and you don't want to be wasting time teaching these people about the industry.
Yeah.
So hire the best. It's gonna be more costly, but it's so worthwhile because it's gonna end up with a shorter sales cycle.
I agree, 100%. What are investors in the region looking for, specifically from tech startups? I feel like there's been a slight shift in terms of how much they are interested in it. Do you have any insights?
I've been sitting with quite a few, actually. I think it's very humbling and I'm very proud of it, you know, because I'm a very proud Arab. Like, it's something I wear very publicly and I don't diminish of it. And so there's a lot of VCs now saying our fund focus of this round is really Arab founders with focus in X countries. And they're, you know, whether they're focused on Jordan, whether they're focused only on Lebanon entrepreneurs, they're focused also with their team exclusively in Saudi and in the UAE. And sometimes in Kuwait and Bahrain, depends on their focus, but they are looking at Arab founders.
And they're looking specifically to markets. So they'll go in with the intention of, I want a Jordanian founder, as an example.
Exactly. And a team as well, not just a founder, but their team, whether should be in Jordan or whether it has to be in, you know, in Saudi Arabia. And they want to see the operations there.
So there's an active pursuit for representation from the region.
Exactly.
Is there a preference to whether they're looking for men or women? Is there a preference in terms of the industries that they're looking for?
There is no preferences in gender, but there is a preference is that from a founder role, where's the woman as well? You know, from a board member role, there's now a lot of like, you know, where's the woman on your board? You know, so I think, I mean, I just joined as an advisory role for a company called Skipper, and it's a VPN, and they were so like, finally, you know, we have a woman on board, you know, and it's a tech, you know, it's a tech company where like, you know, you end up sitting with them. They're like, finally, like that fresh perspective. I never even thought of it this way. And yes, we are different, you know, there is value with, even if you think that we don't understand. I mean, I'm a full stack web developer. I understand the tech. So don't assume that certain, let's say, roles are blocked by gender types. So I think the region is much more comfortable and aware that, you know, whether man or woman, they are capable in those fields.
Nice. I like that. I'm glad to hear that. Because I think there was a statistic out there that less than like 2% of investments are going to female founders. I don't remember if this was a global or a regional statistic, but I find that ridiculous. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that that's not an issue. And there's an active intention seeking talent, no matter where it comes from.
You know, can I just share something?
Go ahead.
I think something that I'm not a fan of is I don't like saying that I'm a female founder.
Me either.
I
don't
like to
either.
say
Yeah.
I'm a founder.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I'm not, I'm not going to be any different because I'm a man or a woman. I'm still Lama. Maybe working with me in the region, I've definitely faced like, oh, she's direct, she's transparent, she's this. I've been called certain labels, and I was like, thank you. And they're not the best labels. I'm saying like negatively attacked, and I don't take it to heart because listen, that's your perception. Because if it was coming from a man, you would not be saying that. But it's okay. You have your own growth, but I'm not screaming, I'm not being disrespectful, but I'm direct.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that you shine in your role. That's really my objective. And so maybe a lot of people, they think that I'm attacking, but I'm like, no, I'm nice. I promise you, I'm nice. I want the best for you. I promise you, it's not an attack. So it takes time to, I think, to remove that. Oh, she's not attacking me because she's a woman, right? Because they're not so used to seeing a woman in leadership roles. And so, no, she's a leader, So it's that change of mindset of the team that stop looking at us as gender roles, but rather as leaders.
100%. But like, if I agree 100% with what you're saying, and I'm someone who, I don't call myself a female founder, and I find it very patronizing when I'm pointed out as such. But there's a reason that is a label that we're hearing a lot lately, because for us to be able to see and have representation in positions of influence anywhere, whether it's in the position of being a founder at a company or a board member, there has to be an intentional acts that are putting women there. Because the fact of the matter is that they don't exist. We don't see it. I mean, I don't know about your experience, but when I was starting out my career, I had very, very, very few women in leadership positions that I could not even look up to, just learn from. You know what I mean? They were very, very few. I didn't have the best experiences in terms of how open they were to sharing their struggles. And I know that there were a lot of struggles for them to get there. So I think when we talk about representation today, I appreciate that when the search is being made or when they're looking at boards, there's an active, conscious question of, okay, but where's the woman on your board? We need that. We need that if we want to see the representation that we expect in these spaces of influence. That being said, what advice would you give to founders who are truly struggling to build strong teams, especially to your point in a remote first world?
I think the struggles is that shift of, I think, macro management to micromanagement. And it's hard to trust, right, when they're not in front of you. I understand that. But I think it's, start off project-based, and give deadlines and see, how they react, right? Do they make the deadline? Are they communicating prior to the deadline that they're not being able? So having an open door policy where come talk to me. So for me, it's like, I don't have a problem if you're not going to make a deadline, but just tell me so that I can say, you know what, and bring somebody else to maybe finish this job, or I will come in and finish the job. But don't let me come to a place where I'm sitting with a client and say, I can't give you this task and this product because of lack of communication that I could have been better at. So I think it's tough with the communication across teams, but it is manageable. Slack is easy. You open it up, you communicate, you get on calls. You don't need to have that face-to-face, interaction. It's nice to get together. I understand that people yearn for a hybrid model rather than just remote work. I get it, and it's nice to sit down in front of the team, but it's also distracting. So I remember when I used to work for these companies and sometimes go to the offices, I was always bombarded. Lama, come here, this, I need to talk to you, this. You end up not being able to finish your actual work. Yeah. So you get pulled a lot. So I think have pulled sessions with teams and departments and, weekly check-ins. You could do daily stand-ups depending with different departments and leaders because it's a lot of work. It's operational, CEO.
Are there any tools that you would recommend when it comes to recruiting or finding talent?
I actually There's one coming up that I saw it in demo. I cannot talk about it yet, but it's coming out soon. But it's a very impressive AI model that headhunts for you, kind of an HR software. You'll tell kind of the skills you want, and it shows you the people that are currently hired, working for other companies, and people that are also looking for work, and kind of, does the whole funnel.
Matchmaking almost.
Kind of, yeah, matchmaking kind of AI when it comes to HR. But look, I think find definitely, a lot of people, I think if you want to go big, you look at your competitors and look at, let's say there's CTO or chief content officer or chief marketing, and, they've done it, they've done great, take them, right?
So you do believe in the poaching culture?
Yeah, of course. Definitely. Because you end up, you bring great talents, right? Like I was saying earlier, it's much easier to bring someone with expertise. So it's faster to close that sales cycle. It's just because it's a lot of learning, a lot of A/B testing. You need to get to where somebody's they have the experience. Or at least bring them in as a consultant, and have them train that internal staff. Because a lot of people say, I want build my own team, my own teams. And I don't believe so much in, like, there's certain positions, and I think like a UX UI, I don't think you need a full-time UX UI. You can use them as project basis based on, version 1, version 2, version 3 of the app. You don't always need someone full-time. I just think there's certain jobs that can be made more on as a freelancer. Or project-based.
You talked about AI, and we know that there are a lot of other emerging technologies that are reshaping industries everywhere, to be honest. How do you see these tools playing a role in building tech companies in MENA? And what should founders keep in mind as they think about integrating them into their businesses? Because I know that that's something that investors are now asking about. What role does AI play in your business? So can you speak a little bit about that?
So I think if you don't have AI on your pitch deck, you're not getting funding.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? It's that serious, no matter what industry you come from?
I mean, you need to at least make sure that on your operations, you're using AI, because nobody wants to see a company completing a task where they could have done it, usually in a week. They can now do it in 2 hours with the power of AI. So they're saying, that's inefficiency. Why are you doing that? You don't need to do it the hard way. There's a way to do kind of quality control on the AI results, and it's much shorter. So I think operations-wise, so using workflows that optimizes whether in HR, whether on communication, whether on, there's, writer.ai where it helps as well kind of formulate all the different ideas. There's different tools that power companies, marketing assets, opus.ai as well. You take a video, it gives you all these shareable clips. There's so much out there. There's so many, even having a built-in internal ChatGPT communicating on your files, right? Engaging internally with your docs, with your sheets, with your slides. You no longer need to do things manually. So there's so many ways where you optimize your workflow. But also, I really believe that the consumer now has ever changed. The power of Google is dying, and everybody knows that. We are no longer a cost per click. We are cost per prompt. And that's the future, where every prompt needs to now have, let's say, an ad. And really, it's no longer, depending on your prompt, you're going to be placed an ad. And that's the power and the future of advertising. That's where everybody's going. That's the A/B testing that's happening in the market for ChatGPT, for all of that. So you have to be able to give it your product, if it's B2C, it has to be front-facing, that it is prompt-based, where, let's say, the future of Netflix. Hi, I'm interested in, crimes. I'd like to see, crime investigation maybe somewhere in the Middle East. Do we have any documentaries? Automatically, rather than searching for just the category and then browsing, right? And then you could do it, even if you do, let's say, social apps, you could do which are the top crime shows that my friends have watched, maybe. And then you can end up integrating into like a Snapchat like integration into. So I think the future of consumerism is so hyper personalized to your own network and needs to be connected to the internet. You see that future where it's
100%.
it's no longer, you know, whatever you have as content or even whatever you have as product is, you know, even if it's like Amazon, you know, it's right there. These are the products I have. But what if you have products that they're not displayed there, but I still want to buy them? You can still guide me there and take affiliate links, you know? So it's just, that's that future of that consumerism, that they want to stay in a certain place. They don't want to be moving browsers and browsers. And you want to be able to acquire them as fast as possible.
I agree so much with what you're saying. And I think one of the things that I love is this is also starting to train the people that are using it how to ask for what it is that they want. I find prompting to be a brilliant skill I always tell people I've been in communications for over 16 years. And one of the biggest problems that I find that my clients face, and they always talk about this when they want to whinge or complain about working with any sort of agency or consultant, they always feel like they're being quote unquote taken advantage of. And the first question that I ask them is, what was your initial brief? What did you ask for? What is it that you want? And very rarely do they have an answer to that question. And I feel like the idea that there is a technology out there that is going to amplify your, I hate the term productivity, but amplify your productivity, help you gain more knowledge, your efficiency, whatever it is you want to call it. You just have to do a better job at specifying what it is that you want. And that puts accountability back in your hands. I think that's brilliant. I'm very excited at the role that AI is going to serve. So one thing that I noticed about you is that you took a break to become a mom. You know, you have led this hyper productive life of an entrepreneur, starting companies, exiting them. You consult on the side, you do a million different things, but you consciously took a break when you decided to become a mom. And I'd like you to speak to that because I found your take on that quite insightful, especially if we're being fair in a world that isn't that forgiving to not just mothers, but anyone who wants to take a break in their career cycle.
I think it goes back to, I think that, you know how I labeled it as a proud Arab? I'm such a proud mom. I mean, to each his own, but at least for me, it was such a, it is a beautiful experiencing, is an empowering experience. And I'm very self-aware that my place in society is grand because of that. And I am proud of that. And I'm proud of that break. And it made me and shapes me of who I am today. So that conscious decision that when I'm a mother, even when I'm working on side hustles, right? When my time is with my kids, my time is with my kids. And I stop that. I stop working or, I tell them I'm offline now because I'm with my kids. So whoever I've interacted with, even got on our calls where, the child interrupts and she says, sorry. I was like, why are you saying sorry? And I'm saying hi to the kid and I'm talking, or we're on a call and the baby's crying in the background. I tell them, call me back when you can. I'm here, So being empathetic rather than saying, oh, I can't believe, that CNN reporter when a child came and brought in and people were laughing. It's beautiful. It's no longer rushing in and I can't believe, like, no, we are human. We have homes, we have families. It's innate that we are, it's our duty. So there's nothing shameful that should be about it. And do not make me less of an employee or let's say an asset or a talent in the market because I became a mother. It should not be that. I am my own brand. So I have so many friends that have stopped working and then wanting to go back and telling me, yeah, but I have that gap. It looks like I have to look at an executive role rather than a managerial role. I'm like, no. You were a managing director. You will come back as a managing director. I don't care how long you've been off. You are still an asset, and you need to. And it goes down to when you were mentioning that there was not enough women getting those leadership roles, because unfortunately we're not believing in ourselves. Know that you are a brand, and then everything else is extra. Look at us as mothers, the time management that we do, the crisis management, the multitasking skills that we have. Are you kidding me? That's an asset. Like if I'm hiring, I'm like, wow, you were a mother? Yes. Yes, I'm hiring you, because you know how to juggle, right? And I would hope the future of work really, when you're asking mothers to come back to work, beyond just having empathy and remote work and flexible hybrid models, but have a service where within the office space you have like nursing, right? A kindergarten where they can have and bring in their kids into the office area, and then if she's breastfeeding, she go in and she can breastfeed, she can go back to work. Just having that innate kind of, it takes a village to raise a child. That's, we need to come back to our culture, and it's something we are proud of. I don't need to replicate what the US has done. I don't think that what the US is successful. And I'm proud, again, we go back to that proud Arab, right? I'm proud that we need to be re-acknowledging that we are a community that raises our children, especially as expats that we live here, So yeah, I would love that kind of psyche and that mentality to come back to the region, that let us all take care of each other and let us all take care of mothers and protect the children, because when you take her from that and make her feel guilty, it ends up harming the child more than the mother. And you are harming future generations.
100%.
Yeah.
I love that. Lama, I usually end episodes on a final question, and I ask this of all my guests. What would you ask me today based on the conversation that we've had? What would you like me to consider?
Interesting. What would I like you to consider? I think you are a female founder now. Have you thought about hiring other moms?
I actually never had an issue with hiring mothers because I'm very generally empathetic. My problem has been, how do I manage being empathetic, but also having, being an assertive boss that has expectations when it comes to fulfilling a role. And funny enough, that problem existed more with people that were not mothers versus people that were. I always feel like mothers have this innate sense of guilt in them where they feel like they have to overcompensate for the lives that they're already living more than the people that have the privilege to dedicate more time to work, even if I don't ask for it. So I find that, would I consider it? Alhamdulillah, I already do. I've never had an issue with it. But I think my biggest learning when it came to building teams was, how do I build a culture of empathy into my business where I really want to be able to make being human with each other part of the way that we interact, but also very clear and assertive and direct about what my expectations are in the role that you're filling. And that's why, to go back to my point early on, I know how important good leadership is in terms of running a company, but I feel more important than people loving you as a leader, I think them respecting you is more important, respecting what it is that you do in the broader scope of what this company is trying to do. Especially in this day and age, if I'm looking at hiring younger people, I really do believe that they need to believe in what it is that they are doing. If they find that it's silly or trivial or not important enough, simply put, they're not going to care. They're not going to care. This is going to become a very expendable role and job. So very consciously, when I look at how I hire now, I want everyone that comes into the company to feel like they are contributing to something that we are collectively growing. And I feel like that's the shift in my mindset.
I can give you an advice.
Tell me.
You could do, and I've seen this really successful, like a shared company KPI rather than individuals. And so we are all working towards one shared goal. And
I like
so that becomes so liberating. I've seen it. And another thing I highly advise is that you can, daily check in, what couldn't you do this week or what couldn't you do today that I can help you for tomorrow? That maybe you're falling short behind, rather than becoming like this, but rather than like, let me help you. So always having that approach that helps people open up about, I wasn't able because I have this. Okay, maybe then we need to manage your tasks, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I agree.
That's
I like
two
that.
things.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And I feel like you gave us so much to consider. I feel like it was quite a broad conversation, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dana. Really, all the best.
What are the best ways for people to reach out to you or connect with you if they're interested?
So, if you please feel free to connect. You can reach out on LinkedIn. It's Lama Osman. And on Instagram, if you want to shoot me, it's lama.i.masri.
I'll make sure everything is linked.
Amazing.
To all of our listeners, as always, I want to thank you for the privilege of your time. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share. We appreciate all and any sorts of engagement. And inshallah, we'll see you next time. And we hope you found something to consider.